Hello, this is Lita with Lita Scrapbooking Life, and today we're going to continue with our mini scrapbook album with the flip-flop insert. So we've made our pages, we've made our flip-flop inserts, now we've got to bind our pages. I'm going to bind mine with just binding D-rings. You can use the round rings, you could use any of the binding systems that are out there. I'm going to punch my holes. And I always like to use an eyelet to finish off the holes so that it looks nice and neat, and also it keeps the paper from ripping when you flip through the album frequently, as I do. I always use my template. This is the same template that I used to make the little binding tabs on each of the pages, so I just save that and I go back and I punch the holes in it. So all I'm going to do is measure that, find the center, and then I measure about a ½ inch from the end, mark my spot, make sure I also measure about the same in this way. It doesn't really matter. I do it anywhere from about 1/4 to, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch in, just depending on, I just kind of eyeball it, but then check it and make sure I do it the same. Use your template. Okay, line that up, mark the holes. I've got a crocodile, which makes my life so easy. You know, punch that, and then insert the brad, and that's it. So I'm going to do that on each of my pages using my template. So now I'm done, and I'm ready for covers. Well, when I make mini albums, I love to use this really nice framing mat. I get this from a frame shop, and they have a lot of this left over because in framing pictures they cut the middle out. Well, the piece that's left is usually 11, 12, 13 inches. It's perfect for mini framing, mini album covers. So I picked this up really cheap. I'm saying $5 for a huge big sack of it. And the great thing is there's lots of colors and designs and textures. A lot of the time I only have to cover one side. On this one I will probably keep this color for my cover, and on the other side I'll put some type of paper. Now let's think about what size we want these covers. Since my page is exactly a 6-inch square, I want to have a little bit on each side, so I'm going to cut my cover a ½ inch bigger. So I'm going to cut my cover 6½ inches so that I have about 1/4 of an inch on each side. So 6½ inches this way from top to bottom. Now my side to side dimension I'm going to calculate a little bit differently because I want this to be flush over here where I bind it. I don't want an extra ½ inch over here. I want this to be flush. But I do want an extra little 1/4 inch here. So since from here to here is 6½ already, I'm going to measure 6 3/4 to make the width of my cover. So my finished cover is going to be 6½ by 6 3/4. Now I'm ready to bind my holes. Put my binding holes in. I want to measure this and find the center. Find the center. I'm going to use this very same template that I used for my other, and I'm going to line it up on there with my center mark. Trace my holes, and I'm only going to do one cover right now. I'll show you why in a second. Trace my holes. Now I'm going to use my crocodile. The crocodile is about the only thing I've found that's going to make a nice hole in this heavy cover framing mat. So if you're going to use the framing mat, I'll tell you right now, you need to invest in a crocodile because you're going to need it to get through it. Okay, put those in there like that. I'm going to use an eyelet. And eyelets are really easy to set with a crocodile. If you've never done it before, you'll love this. Love it, love it. You just stick it in there like that. Okay, you use the top part of the tool up here. Insert, and you just squeeze it gently like that. Nice. Beautiful. Finished. I just really can't even do an album anymore without a crocodile and without finishing the holes. And every old album I've got that I never did finish, I go back and I put eyelets in every hole. I just do. I just can't stand to leave them unfinished now. Okay, so now you've got this beautifully finished hole. It looks lovely. Oh, and if you need to know, the setting is, for your crocodile, it's the number 2 for the back side, and it is the letter A on the front side of the crocodile, if you're wondering what I'm using on this. Okay, I'm going to do both of those the same. Now, here's the trick with the back cover. For some reason, it just happens this way. If you punch both of them this way, they will line up. They don't always line up perfect. So what I do is I say, okay, this is a pair of covers, right? This is going to be the back. So I'm going to flip it over like this, and then mark my holes, punch them, and then don't forget you want to put have your finished side of your eyelets on the back side. So that's my trick with covers. Okay, the last thing that I want to show you today is pictures. Okay, the flip-flop insert has got lots of spaces for pictures. You've got 8 spots that you can fit a 2.5 by 2.5 inch picture. Okay? 2.5 by 2.5 is going to fit on this perfect because we've got this width here is actually 2 3/4. So you can do 8 of these. 2 here, 2 here. Now this one looks like, but this is actually, when you flip it, you see it's going to be another set of those 2.5 inch and 2.5 inch here, and you're back to the front. So you can do 8 of these. So you're just going to want to go and you're going to want to find your pictures. And, you know, I've got some pictures here, some baby pictures I'm going to do of my daughter. And you're just going to cut them so that when you get ready to put them on the insert, they're going to fit. So you have room for 8 2.5 by 2.5 pictures on this flip-flop insert. Alright. These pages, these little spaces up here at the top, you have room for 4 horizontal and 4 vertical. So they're going to measure 2.5 by 1 1/8. So you can have 4 of those. It can either be a little square for journaling. It could be another little tiny picture. Okay? Because see, when you flip it this way, now you have to make a choice here. If you put one of these here, then obviously you couldn't put a square picture. I wouldn't put it there. I'd wait, you know, until you get to a part that has a vertical right here. See how you're going to have some vertical spots on this part. Okay, so 4 horizontal, 4 vertical, and then lastly you've got space for these little squares. And I actually found a little picture of my daughter that just fit perfectly, and these are going to measure 1 1/8 inch by 1 1/8 inch. You actually have room for 8 of these inside the album. So for instance, I have room for 1 here. Okay, I can flip it again, and I've got room for 1 here. So these could be anything from a picture to, it could be initials for your child. It could be a little graphic. It can be anything that you want it to be. But that's what you want to cut and have prepared to put your flip-flop piece together.